Alex, it is extraordinary, the pronouncements we've heard from Emmanuel Macron over this entire pandemic. He's just made no secret of his willingness to use the COVID pandemic politically. He, of course, unlike people like Boris Johnson, right now, is facing an election. He's got a presidential election in just 3 months' time. He's facing a wide range of opponents from all sides, but particularly on the right. But he's basically wanting to appear as Mr. Strongman when it comes to sort of Brexit and fishing wars with the Brits and all of that. But he also wants to be talking tough when it comes to handling the pandemic. And we know that this, obviously, France is going through very difficult times right now, with 300,000 cases announced yesterday, and a huge number of people in hospital and an ICU, and a huge number of deaths are coming as well. But he said that basically he wants to make life more difficult for unvaccinated people. They've had very strict vaccine passport rules and very draconian rules already for a long time. But he said in an interview with Le Parisien newspaper, I really want to, we'll use a rhyming word, hiss them off, and we'll carry on doing this to the end. How has this gone down with French people?
Yes, well, he was really criticized among the French, well, the non-vaccinated really criticized him. People who were vaccinated criticized him too. And he was criticized at the National Assembly, and lots of politicians, the left and the right, criticized him. There was an uproar in Parliament, in French Parliament, during the debate, and the debate 2 nights ago had to be suspended. And they wanted the French Prime Minister Jean Castex to clarify the situation. They wanted the Prime Minister to ask to tell MPs if this bill that's going to pass is going to be voted, because right now there's this health pass. People need a health pass to go into a cafe, a restaurant, or a venue, or they need to have a PCR test, a negative PCR test. And it's going to transform eventually into a vaccine passport. So basically, it's going to eventually exclude non-vaccinated people. So they wanted the Prime Minister to clarify whether it will divide the society or not. And the Prime Minister said, it won't divide the society. So he tried to appease things, and the health minister tried to appease things too. He's a former doctor, so he gave an example about he talked about a case where there were pregnant women in some ICUs who had COVID and who weren't vaccinated, and he talked about these terrible cases. So he really.
But again, we hear these arguments here in the UK as well. But I mean, yes, and I wish those people were vaccinated, but imposing these sort of draconian rules isn't necessarily the answer. I mean, one of the reasons why France had for a long time a very low take-up of vaccines, and they still haven't rolled out their boosters. I've got a friend in her 60s in France who's not due to get one until March, for goodness sake. They've been very slow, but there was very slow take-up because they basically, along with German leader Angela Merkel, dissed the AstraZeneca vaccine, which they did have supplies of, and people basically didn't want to take it. So he's created the problem himself. But it is extraordinary because we've got mandatory vaccinations being introduced in several countries in Europe, Austria for all over 14s from next month, Germany planning the same move for over 18s. Italy last night said by decree,
in Greece too,
they're going to make vaccination compulsory. So the booster vaccination is included for everyone over the age of 50 from the 15th of February. This is spreading like wild COVID, terrifyingly. I mean, I'm very pleased we've not gone down this route in this country, but I fear we still might. And the question is, how popular are these moves? To be this draconian. There are some people who just demand. I mean, there are some people, let's face it, who want people pinned down and have the jabs put in them. Other people want people who aren't jabbed to be punished. But this is all based on this idea that the unvaccinated are stopping the rest of us live our lives, which the evidence suggests is not the case, given how Omicron spreads to those like me who've been double jabbed, and Sir Keir Starmer, the Labour leader, who's been triple jabbed, and he's got COVID right now as well. How popular are these moves in France? Do people largely think that it's a good idea to have these sort of draconian treatment of the unvaccinated?
Well, France is really divided between the unvaccinated and the vaccinated. The vaccinated form about 90% of the population, the unvaccinated under 10%. So the vaccinated think that the unvaccinated pose a huge problem, and they think that the unvaccinated are the ones that are the minority, or they are vociferous minority who are getting in the way of the progression in France, and who for example, because they want the vaccinated want France to have a bit of normality, for example. So
Yeah.
they think that, you know, with unvaccinated people in France, there'll still be these measures in place. For example,
Well, I mean,
so
I would say to them, good luck with that. Look